You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
The options market can be a confusing place. Sorting through the daily avalanche of data, alerts, updates, articles, and analysis to find the most important information is an overwhelming prospect. But now you have help. Welcome to the Options News Rundown, the only program that breaks through the noise to bring you the most important news and information from the world of options. Every day, we bring you the top 5 option stories curated by the options experts at theoptionsinsider.com, the premier source for options information. The Options News Rundown is brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in options trading education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's Live Advantage Group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider. And now it's time to break through the noise. It's time for your Options News Rundown.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, April 4th, 2019. This is your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli. Our first story today is from investing.com. It's the top 5 things to know in the market on Thursday. The first thing to know is Trump is to meet Liu He. U.S. President Donald Trump will meet China's top trade negotiator, Vice Premier Liu He, in Washington, in what some see as proof that the two countries are within touching distance of some kind of agreement. Bloomberg cited officials saying a draft agreement gives China until 2025 to meet commitments on increasing purchases of U.S. goods and services, while allowing U.S. companies to wholly own Chinese companies. The Wall Street Journal cautioned, however, that the U.S. insistence on keeping some tariffs in place on Chinese goods remains a key sticking point. The second thing to know today is Wall Street was set to open lower after more weak data. Wall Street looks set to open lower after another blast of disappointing economic data from Europe as it fanned concerns about the strength of the economy that had already risen after yesterday's disappointing ADP payrolls report. European bourses fell earlier Thursday morning after Germany announced factory orders fell by 4.2% in February, the sharpest drop in 2 years. Export orders from outside the Eurozone fell particularly sharply. The third thing to know today is jobless claims and Fed speeches are on tap. Sandwiched between the ADP report and the government's employment report due on Friday, numbers for last week's initial jobless claims were released at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The consensus forecast was for a slight increase in claims to 216,000, although that would still leave the 4-week rolling average, which analysts see as a better reflection of the market, extending a decline that stretches back to February. Later in the day, the New York Federal Reserve President John Williams and Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester will both hold speeches. The fourth thing to note today is Tesla slumps after a shocking first quarter report. Tesla stock is set to open sharply lower after the company reported a 31% drop in deliveries in the first quarter to 63,000. Sales were hit by a reduction in U.S. federal tax credits for electric cars at the end of last year and by difficulties in delivering to Europe and China. The company upheld its 4-year forecast of 360,000 to 400,000, a target that demands a big increase in sales over the next 9 months. Tesla said it finished the quarter with sufficient cash but didn't give any further details. The fifth thing to know today is the oil rally fades. The rally in crude oil prices faded after U.S. government data allowed a surprising 7.2 million barrel increase in inventories last week, boosted by a rise in net imports. The benchmark West Texas Intermediate futures contract has eased back to $62.24 a barrel from a high of $62.87 on Wednesday, while the international benchmark Brent has retreated to $69.03 from a high of just under $70. Thursday's data were affected to some degree by the closure of the Houston Ship Channel, which has affected import and export loadings and refinery runs. Our second story today is from Yahoo Finance. That's finance.yahoo.com. TradeWeb raises $1.1 billion in the year's number 2 IPO in the U.S. TradeWeb Markets, Inc. raised $1.1 billion in the second largest U.S. initial public offering this year, after again increasing the number of shares it was selling and then pricing them above the marketed range. The bond and derivative trading platform sold 40 million shares for $27 apiece Wednesday, according to a statement. TradeWeb had originally planned to sell 27.3 million shares for $24 to $26 each, and had boosted the size of the offering on Tuesday to 36.25 million shares to buy back more of the stock held by its bank investors. The IPO values the New York-based company at about $6 billion based on filings. TradeWeb intends to use the proceeds to buy shares held by 8 of the 11 large banks that own stakes in the company, including Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and USB Group, according to its registration settlement statement filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Despite a slow start, 2019 is shaping up to be a blockbuster year for IPOs. Lyft, Inc.'s $2.34 billion IPO last week had the biggest listing this year. Levi Strauss & Company's $623 million offering in February ranked third, and TradeWeb's IPO is also the biggest for a financial services company in the U.S. since online lender GreenSky Inc. raised $874 million in May. Our third story today is from investing.com. It's a follow-up on what we talked about in our first story. U.S. weekly jobless claims fall to lowest level since 1969. The number of Americans filing applications for unemployment benefits fell to a more than 49-year low last week, pointing to a sustained labor market strength despite slowing economic growth. Other data on Thursday showed U.S.-based companies announced fewer layoffs in March, but job cuts for the first quarter were the highest since 2015. The economy is losing momentum as the stimulus from the $1.5 trillion tax cut package fades. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is news you can use for today, Thursday, April 4th, 2019, your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli. Trade smart and have a great day.
The Options News Rundown is brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in options trading education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's Live Advantage Group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider.
The The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.